A very good evening to you and welcome to Power Brief. We are on the last week of the month of May and a lot is happening in the corridors of power here in Kenya amid this COVID-19 pandemic. Changes in the parliamentary leadership by top political parties to hinting of reopening the economy by President Uhuru Kenyatta are some of the developments seen this week. Tonight, we look into the possible genesis of the Jubilee party wrangles, especially the theory of the two centers of power that has been alleged by both the President and Raila Odinga's confidants. On the show, we are joined by Mr. Milton Lucheri, who is a political analyst, and also we have Mr. Philip Mwangale, who is a leadership and governance consultant. My name is Cornelius Omuse, and I welcome you to walk with us in this debate. Remember, this discussion is also live on our Facebook page, that is CAC TV Kenya, and we are also on YouTube, CAC TV Kenya. Our Twitter handle is CACTV_Kenya. And just a disclaimer, all that is being discussed here are personal opinions of our guests, but not the actual position of CAC TV. Join us and do not go too far. Gentlemen, welcome on Power Brief.
Thank you so much.
How have you been, Mr. Milton, before I come to Mr. Mwangale?
I've been well. I think the last time I was here, COVID had just started, so we took a break and now we're back. Thank God for everything. And I know that the show is going to be nice, and I look forward to it. Thank you so much.
Many thanks. Mr. Mwangale, how are you doing?
I'm okay. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here. I have been managing okay in the circumstances. I mean, we are trying to make adjustments as much as we can to accommodate this pandemic, because now it's turning out that we can only accommodate it and find ways of working through it. Yes.
Before we get into tonight's topic, there's something that we want to look briefly.
Okay.
President Uhuru Kenyatta hinted on Sunday that there are chances that the economy will be reopened. He actually spoke from his heart. You could tell how he was empathetic on how the citizens are going through a lot of issues due to economic hitches that has come as a result of stay at home and work from home. Now, we want to look into some of the possibilities and some of these things that you feel if they applied, then this matter can actually be well for everyone. How possible is this matter, beginning with Mr. Lucheri?
First of all, I just want to thank the President for having come out to show his sympathies with the masses. Because it is true that this pandemic has brought a lot of economic hardship in many homesteads in Kenya, because the kind of economy we have does not support a middle class kind of economy where everybody is working. We support mainly an economy where one has to work to eat. There are some instances you can take 3 or 4 days leave and you come back to work, you come back home and you still get your salary. But this is an economy where you have to go outside of your house for you to work. And if you don't do that, then it means you'll sleep hungry. That is where the majority of Kenyans lie. And it is a good thing that the President has come out to appreciate that fact. And now him hinting to opening or reopening of the economy is a good thing. It comes as a good news to many Kenyans, especially the ones who rely on a day-to-day activities. Though I would like to put a very strong disclaimer, because there are issues of resurgence of these cases. For example, in Singapore, you saw that Singapore, Ghana, and those other countries, in the first few months, few weeks, they managed to contain the situation, and they said it is now safe to open the economy. But immediately they did that, then we saw the infection cases rising to alarming levels. So that is the danger that we stand to run right now if we open the economy without putting very strict guidelines on how to open that. What I would say, for example, about telling students to go back to class, I would say that maybe the candidates only let them go to class and maybe do the exam. Allow the rest of the peoples to be at home, because most of them don't know how to do social distancing, hand sanitizer, and those kind of things. And these are very vulnerable ages, and an explosion of cases can come from schools reopening. So there are those little things that the president actually needs to pay keen attention even before okaying for the economy to be reopened. Yeah, so I think it is a good move that he has accepted. We have this challenge, but then again, it has to be approached very cautiously, because it is the people who drive the economy. But if the health of the people is suffering, then it means also the economy will suffer. So we better protect the people first, even if it means injecting more funds into the ESP program that the president has started. Let us do that. As long as the people are protected first, then the economy will pick. Thanks.
According to you, Mr. Lucheri, before we go to Mr. Mwangale, what are some of the merits, between merits and demerits? Because before another move is taken, a lot must have been considered. That considering people staying at home or going back to work with the prevailing circumstances, this one sounds better. To you, which one is best in this? What sounds to be having more merits?
You know, the kind of a situation you're looking at, it is not whereby you'll have a one shoe fits all kind of circumstance or kind of a solution. You'll have to graduate the economy in the sense that you have to know the people in the service sector. This is how they operate, especially the service sector people. They don't need to go to work. They can have their laptops up at home and work from home, okay? And then you also have people in the manufacturing sector. These people, they have to be at work because manufacture is a hands-on job, okay? And then you also want to look at the informal sector. These are now the majority of Kenyans, okay? And then, of course, there's the education sector, the students, the universities, and those kind of things. So the economy has to be graduated, and each category has to come up with very specific guidelines. So for me, it's a good thing, but it has its own demerits. It just needs to be managed. If it is not managed, then we will run a high risk of resurgence.
Coming from worst to worst.
Coming from worst to worst. And you'll be surprised that the economy will be shut again if this thing is not managed properly. Today you've seen the figures have been announced. It is at 123, okay? Because people are just defying the stay-at-home order. They have to go out, they have to eat, they have to work, and those kind of things. So if it is not properly managed, we will have a serious issue that we are looking at. So the president, much as he's sympathizing with the people, let him also look at the reality of this disease and also try to balance the two.
So according to Mr. Lucheri, let each and every case be handled with their own uniqueness. For instance, if you're a journalist, how do journalists work? If you're an accountant, if you're a lawyer, all those to be handled independently. And then see what works best for who.
Exactly.
Many thanks. Let's get to Wakili also to tell us his peace of mind.
Now, I have a lot of things to say about how the government has handled this pandemic, and all of them are not nice, or 99% are not nice things. Because from the outset, the way we handled this pandemic was not right. We failed to limit importation of the virus into the country, yet we had the opportunity. In fact, the African continent had a lot of time to plan. But unfortunately for us, we were planning to receive the virus rather than planning to repel the virus completely. But that's it. Now that it is here with us and the spread has picked up, one of the things that the government should be doing in terms of regaining the economy is not to have an elitist approach to the economic stimulus program. I disagree with the both of you that the president was empathetic. I don't know if I am merciless when it comes to him as a person specifically, but I did not see that empathy. Right from the beginning, he was laid back. If you contrast that with other leaders who are on the forefront, trying to stay in touch with the plight of their people, he was much laid back. He decided to leave that responsibility to Mutahi Kagwe and other cabinet secretaries. The fact that he's coming out right now, and for me, what I saw was him reading a speech and trying to explain what he had read. I do not think that the economic stimulus program will largely affect common mwananchi, because it is an elitist approach. You will have big companies benefiting from that stimulus program. You would have large enterprises. For example, when the president talking about the tourism industry and the service sector, those that will benefit are not the small hotels, and you know, yes, not this low level or low income earning enterprises. Those that stand to benefit are the middle and high income enterprises. So that is a problem, because we have very many Kenyans at the lower cadre of our economy, and that has not been factored in. The fact that we do not have a situation where we are looking at how Kenyans can be fed, because that is very important. You would give somebody, 1,000 shillings per week or 500 shillings per week, but that does not go to the to the foundation of the plight of Kenyans. Right now, Kenyans need food. We should be looking at ways in which food distribution and the food chain or the distribution chain remains intact. We might ease down our restrictions. We might remove the lockdowns. We might say now people can interact freely, given the guidelines that the Ministry of Education has been imploring us to do. But then these chains of distribution have suffered. How do you revamp those chains? What is happening is a short-sighted mechanism, which for me would work for a few months or for a few weeks, but then going forward, what should happen in the next in a span of 6 months? Because we have taken a hit that cannot go away in a week. It cannot go away in 2 months. So we needed a more robust plan that will address those issues. The other bit that is more important is that we have a culture and a history of corruption, runaway corruption. And for me, I saw largely the amounts that were quoted by the president as book balancing. There could be monies that have already been spent, and this is an attempt to sanitize that expenditure. And that is very unfortunate, because we have seen expenditure from the Ministry of Health. You remember that ledger that leaked out, the report that was to go to Parliament, and there was 4 million spent on tea, there was 6 million spent on airtime and stuff like that. So if that is our approach, if those are our priorities, then these billions of shillings that we have set aside will go to waste. And I think we should challenge the government to come out and analyze and give us a record of what the monies that have come from the World Bank have done, these donations, these loans that we have gotten into in this period, what those monies have done. Yes.
We call it accountability. Many thanks, gentlemen. Now we come back fully home. There is this matter we are witnessing within the Jubilee party, how it began. It's been a long journey, actually, since the year 2018. Jubilee means celebration. I think it's a French word. These two groups that came together were celebrating until to some point where now seems maybe a few of them are celebrating. What happened in the Senate the other day? We saw Orengo standing up. That is a Senate minority leader. He talked of the problem with Jubilee that they're having two generals. The same statement was said by Murade, who is the assistant deputy chairman of Jubilee. He talked about that two generals, that the deputy wants to outshine the master. We want to establish the topic for tonight's topic. Who, in this case, or do you believe that there have been two centers of power up to right now in Jubilee Party, Mr. Luchere?
Yeah, thank you so much. You know, Jubilee Party is coming together of over 14 parties And that happened in 2018. You know, initially the ruling coalition was between TN and URP. But at some point, when approaching the general election of 2017, they decided for us to have inclusivity, let us now bring other parties on board. Yeah. But now, what has transpired since then is the perception that the Jubilee Party has only two founding parties, that is URP and TNA. We forget that there are other parties like BAS Party and all the other parties which actually form Jubilee. So that is basically the genesis of how Jubilee came about. Now, when you speak about there being two generals, it's a term of convenience. I think it is what the opposition wants to use, of course with the help of the people around the president, so as to advance the agenda. And
how about Murade?
And that is that is why I'm saying the people surrounding the president. And you see, some time back, Murade was very vocal, and he said William Ruto will never be the president. Just wait and see the coming few days. And you know, he swore on his word. And then the likes of Ndindi Njoro started engaging in a debacle with him. This tells you that they knew exactly what was happening. You remember even that particular time, Murade was saying, if I've spoken, the president has spoken. And then the president came out and said, I have never sent anybody to speak on my behalf, okay? That is to say that this is a plan that had already been hatched. It's only that Murate now spoke before time. Yeah, but now it's when we are seeing actually what he meant, and it is being executed to the letter. Okay, so now they have finished with the Senate, they have purged it, they see it is now clean, and then they are now moving to the Parliament. Now they also want to wash it so that it is clean. Why? Because of the coming referendum. Okay, the referendum has to be sanctioned through both houses of our parliament. That is why the ODM and the Jubilee parties, they want this thing to pass. Of course, the people allied to ODM leader Raila and the people allied to Uhuru. They want to purge the houses. They want to sweep it so that when that motion comes, it goes. And then, just to make it even harder, is that on Thursday, the president is going to do some changes in the party, the party leader. He's going to elect the National Executive Committee. And you know what that means. It means anyone siding with the deputy president is going to be removed. And then anyone who agrees with the president, that is the person who will be put in.
So according to Mr. Lucheri,
yes,
there are no true centers of power.
No,
there have never been two centers of power.
That is what I'm saying all along. As in, this thing had been planned. There's no center of power. There are no two centers of power. The vice president, the deputy president, has categorically stated times and again that I am loyal to the president. And in fact, at some point, the ODM members of parliament were accusing him of insubordination. And he started giving them an account of how he has defended the president for all these years he's been in office. So if there's anyone who has supported the president, is the deputy president.
So even his actions and that of his allies accompanied his words of being loyal to the president?
You see...
from you?
Yes.
And from what any other person can see before we bring in Mr. Mwangala also to
tell
us his version.
I think Mwangala is very ready to join this. but what I'd say...
Say what is there. Because everyone is saying, including Mwangala, and is here.
Yeah,
he has the power to challenge you.
Yeah. You know, being in a position of deputy president, you are there as a public servant and two, as a politician. Those are two roles tied in one. Okay, you cannot say that I'm doing one and I'm forgetting the other. They have to be done all together. Otherwise, there will be serious effects, negative effects. To say.
Let's bring in Mr. Mwangale. Are there two centers? Have there been two centers of power in Jubilee Party? And even currently, are we having two centers of power? And is this the genesis of these wrangles that are happening, according to Orengo, Murad and company?
I do not believe there are really two centers of power, but just two centers of influence within the party. And I'm very hesitant to refer to Jubilee as a party for this reason, that we have very few political parties in this country. Very few. Perhaps 2% of what we call political parties are really parties.
Substantiate,
yes.
Maybe you are.
And this is the reason. You know, Article 91 of the Constitution provides for what a political party should look like. It should be a national outfit. It should be geared towards national unity, enhance the tenets of democracy and good governance and all those things. And very few political parties fall within that category.
Including Jubilee.
Including Jubilee. I mean, on paper, I mean, if they were to present their papers, you would read those things. But practically, that is not the case. I think what we have largely in this country is individual enterprises, not really political parties. So that you're not having party loyalty, as Jubilee is claiming to do within Senate and National Assembly. You're forcing people to pay homage to an individual. And that individual is the owner of the party. And so what we are seeing in Jubilee is not really a fight of who is more powerful. It is a fight of ownership. Those who are establishing themselves now are coming out to say, we are the owners of this party. It is really about party ownership. And they are trying to tell William Ruto and those allied to him that you do not own this party. This party belongs to us and we can do as we please. So what we are seeing in the Senate, what we saw in the Senate the other day, and what we are about to see in the National Assembly is not really about party discipline, though it has been dressed to look like party discipline. Ideally, those things should excite us, because we should be looking towards building the health of multi-party democracy and democracy in general in this country. But then they are just a ruse. It is not really about party discipline. Those people who are being whipped within Senate the other day when Murkomen, Kihika and Kindiki faced the whip, they are not facing the whip because they were disloyal to the party. It's because, we've had Morade, we've had Tuju, we've had the senators allied to the party leader say these people were disrespectful to the party leader, not to the party. I mean, if anything, they just took the side of one person who is influential in the party. So it's not really about loyalty to the party, because then that will mean that they went against the party principles. But that was not the case.
And in this case, Mr. Mwangale, what does a party leader represent in a party?
A party leader is a leader of the party. I mean, it's just basically that. What we're having right now, and it's a unique position we find ourselves in compared to other parties across the world. Parties that have the structure of Jubilee. Party leaders are not presidents. You see, so you're having the president juggling between being the president of the country and also juggling between being the leader of his party. So there's the health of his political party that comes into question. He has to make sure that he's maintaining influence within the party, and he also has to make sure that the party is towing the line of the government, because they're the ruling party. And that is a dangerous place to find ourselves in. Because right now, you can imagine if, for example, the party leader of Jubilee was Murade. We will not, I mean, if people were speaking in burials, in funerals, and in other meetings against him, you would not see them facing the whip in parliament or in Senate. It's just because the president is also the party leader. So when people go against the party leader or give sentiments that are against the party leader, then it is perceived that they are carrying out an affront on the presidency, which is actually not true if you consider these sentiments by members of Jubilee. But this is the other thing I must say. If Jubilee was a party per se, and for the reasons that I have given, then we should not be seeing members of Jubilee addressing funerals about the things they see wrong within Jubilee, because those funeral attendees are not members of Jubilee Party. Jubilee Party has mechanisms to address dissent, to address opinions that do not flow with the leadership of the party. But the unfortunate bit is Jubilee did not provide mechanisms, avenues for their members to vent. So instead of people venting out in a parliamentary group meeting, instead of people venting out through elections, instead of people venting out through a national delegates conference, through the party organs, they have to vent out in funerals, they have to vent out in public gatherings, which is not good. So in a healthy political party system, political party members should not be doing what the likes of Murkomen were doing. If you have a dissenting opinion, then there are avenues within the party in which you can address. It does not mean that you should not have an independent mind. It just means that you have to exercise your freedom of thought within the structure of the political party.
Let's establish something before we go for a short commercial break. And I want us to be very honest, both of us, the two of you. Do you admit that there have been two factions in the ruling Jubilee party, that is those that are aligned to the head of state and those that are aligned to the deputy president? I will need a yes or no before we go for a short commercial break and come back now to dig deep into it.
Definitely, we've had two factions. We've had that allied to DP William Ruto and that allied to Uhuru Kenyatta. Though I must state
we will come
okay,
there.
fine. But there have been
yes
factions.
No,
yes.
Then you'll come and give us the explanations.
There have been two factions. There's
both agree.
There's
Many thanks, gentlemen. We go for a short commercial break. Tonight, we are discussing the theory that is going around that there are two centers of power in the ruling party Jubilee, and that's why we have Mr. Milton Lucheri, who is a policy and governance expert. We have advocate Philip Mwangale, who is also a leadership and governance consultant. We are looking into this matter and find ways on how these issues can be solved amicably between the factions that are within the ruling party, that is the Jubilee. Remember, this conversation is also live on our Facebook page and also on our YouTube channel. Keep it on CAC TV.